Hey there, this is Dr. Rena, and I need to tell you something that might sound controversial, but stick with me because what I'm about to share could literally change how you approach building and maintaining muscle for the rest of your life. You've probably heard the hype about bone broth. You know what I'm talking about, right? Everyone's been saying it's this miracle liquid that's going to give you collagen, strengthen your joints, boost your immune system, and help you build muscle. But here's the thing that nobody's really talking about, and I've spent years researching this because I was curious too. Bone broth is being pushed so hard that we're actually overlooking something far more powerful, far more efficient, and honestly something that's backed by decades of solid nutritional science. And today I'm going to pull back the curtain and show you exactly what that is, and why it could be the missing piece in your fight against sarcopenia. Now, before we dive deep, I want you to understand something crucial. Sarcopenia isn't just some fancy medical term that only affects elderly people. This is happening to people in their 40s, their 50s, their 30s even. It's the progressive loss of muscle mass and strength, and it's become one of the most overlooked health crises of our time. We're talking about loss of independence, increased fracture risk, metabolic slowdown, weakness, fatigue, and a cascade of other problems that affect your quality of life. And the truth is, most people don't even realize they're experiencing sarcopenia until it's already become a significant problem. That's why I'm bringing this to you today. So let me ask you something. How many of you have spent money on bone broth? How many of you have boiled bones for hours thinking you were doing the absolute best thing for your body? And how many of you have actually seen dramatic results in your muscle building and strength? I'm guessing for most people the answer is either you saw minimal results or you felt like you were doing something right but you couldn't really measure it. That's because while bone broth does have some beneficial compounds, it's missing something absolutely critical. It's missing the amino acid density and the specific protein profile that your muscles are literally begging for when you're trying to fight sarcopenia and build lean muscle tissue. Let me tell you what I discovered when I really started diving into the research. Barbara O'Neill, who has spent decades studying nutrition and human health, pointed me towards something that completely changed my perspective. And when I started investigating further, I realized that while bone broth gets all the attention and all the marketing hype, there's this other food that's been around forever, that cultures around the world have known about for thousands of years, and it's actually superior in almost every measurable way when it comes to building muscle and fighting sarcopenia. And that food is something you can get at your local grocery store right now, probably for less money than you'd spend on a week's worth of bone broth. Before I reveal what it is, I want you to understand the science behind why sarcopenia is happening in the first place. You see, after about age 30, if you're not actively doing resistance training and eating enough high-quality protein, you're losing approximately 3 to 5% of your muscle mass every decade. That's not something we can ignore. By the time you reach 65 or 70, if you haven't been intentional about building and maintaining muscle, you could have lost 30 to 40% of your peak muscle mass. And this isn't just about looking good or feeling strong. This directly impacts your metabolism, your bone density, your ability to maintain balance, your risk of falling, your ability to perform daily activities, and ultimately, your independence and your quality of life. The mainstream narrative has been telling us that we need to consume collagen and amino acids from bone broth. And yes, bone broth does contain amino acids, but here's what's being left out of the conversation. The amino acid profile in bone broth is heavily weighted toward glycine, proline, and hydroxyproline. While these are beneficial, they're not the amino acids that your muscles are primarily constructed from and that your body needs most when you're trying to build lean muscle tissue and fight sarcopenia. Your muscles are primarily made up of other amino acids, specifically the branched-chain amino acids, which are leucine, isoleucine, and valine. And amino acids like lysine and methionine are also critical for muscle protein synthesis. Bone broth is relatively low in these critical amino acids. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The food that I'm talking about, the one that Barbara O'Neill and other nutritional researchers have been highlighting, is something that's naturally rich in all of these essential amino acids in the exact ratio that your body needs for optimal muscle building and maintenance. It's an animal-based protein source that's been used for thousands of years in cultures that have some of the strongest, healthiest, longest-living populations on Earth. I'm talking about organ meats, specifically liver, and I know what you're probably thinking right now. You're thinking, Dr. Rena, liver? Are you serious? I haven't eaten liver since my grandmother made me try it when I was 8 years old, and it was disgusting. I get it. I really do. But before you click away from this video, I need you to stay with me for just a few more minutes because I'm going to show you exactly why liver is superior to bone broth for building muscle, why it's been called one of the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet, and how you can incorporate it into your diet in ways that actually taste good. Let's talk about the amino acid profile first because this is where the science gets really exciting. One serving of beef liver, which is just about 100 grams or roughly 3.5 ounces, contains approximately 26 grams of high-quality protein. But here's what's different from bone broth. That protein in liver contains all 9 essential amino acids in perfect proportions for human muscle building. It's got high levels of leucine, which is the amino acid that actually triggers muscle protein synthesis in your body. It's got plenty of methionine, which is essential for detoxification and various metabolic processes. It contains lysine, which is critical for collagen formation and bone strength. And it has all the other amino acids your body needs to build and repair muscle tissue. But it doesn't stop there. Liver also contains something that bone broth doesn't have in anywhere near the same quantities, and that's creatine. Creatine is a compound that's produced naturally in your body, but it's also found in meat, and it plays a crucial role in muscle energy production and muscle growth. Creatine is one of the most researched and most effective supplements for building muscle and fighting sarcopenia, and liver contains it naturally. You're getting it without having to buy expensive supplements. And then there's the micronutrient profile. This is where liver completely blows bone broth out of the water. Liver contains iron in a form that your body can actually use effectively. It contains B vitamins, particularly B12, which is absolutely critical for neurological function, energy production, and muscle maintenance. It contains folate, which is important for cellular function and DNA synthesis. It contains selenium, which is an antioxidant that helps protect your muscle cells from damage during training. It contains copper, zinc, phosphorus, and numerous other minerals that your body needs for optimal muscle function and overall health. When you drink a cup of bone broth, you're getting some gelatin, some glycine, and some minerals that have been extracted into the liquid. When you eat a serving of liver, you're getting a complete nutritional powerhouse. You're getting everything your body needs to build muscle, maintain strength, fight off age-related muscle loss, and maintain your health and vitality as you age. Now, let me address the elephant in the room, because I know what people are thinking. They're thinking, but Dr. Rena, isn't liver toxic? Doesn't the liver store all these bad things? And I want to be really clear about this, because this is a misconception that needs to be addressed. The liver doesn't store toxins in the way that people think it does. The liver is a detoxification organ, which means it processes toxins and then excretes them. It doesn't accumulate them. In fact, the nutrients that the liver stores are incredibly valuable to us. The liver stores B vitamins, it stores iron, it stores fat-soluble vitamins, it stores essential minerals. From a nutrient density perspective, liver is one of the most nutritious foods on the planet. And if you're getting your liver from grass-fed, pasture-raised animals, which is what I recommend, you're getting liver from animals that have been raised in healthy conditions and fed appropriate diets. What's fascinating about liver from a nutritional standpoint is that it's nutrient-dense in a way that very few other foods are. If we're comparing calorie for calorie or gram for gram, there's simply no food that's more nutritionally complete than organ meats, particularly liver. You could theoretically eat liver and nothing else and maintain better health than most people eating modern diets with all their variety. That's how nutrient-dense it is. Let me give you some context here, because this is important for understanding why cultures around the world have always revered organ meats. In traditional Chinese medicine, the liver is considered the organ that stores blood and supports muscular function. In Ayurvedic medicine, organ meats have been used for thousands of years to build strength and vitality. In indigenous cultures worldwide, when an animal was hunted, the organ meats were given to the hunters and the people who needed the most nourishment, because everyone understood intuitively that organs were special. They were the most valuable parts of the animal nutritionally. Our ancestors knew this. We've just forgotten it in our modern food culture. So here's the practical application, and this is where I want to help you actually implement this into your life. Now, I understand that for many people the thought of eating liver is not appetizing. The taste can be strong, the texture might be off-putting, and if you weren't raised eating it, it can feel unfamiliar. So let me give you some practical ways to incorporate liver into your diet that actually work and that taste good. First, if you're brand new to eating liver, I recommend starting with liver powder. There are high-quality grass-fed beef liver powders available that have removed much of the strong flavor while preserving all the nutritional benefits. You can mix a teaspoon or two into a smoothie, into your morning coffee, into yogurt, into applesauce, and you won't even notice it's there, but you're getting an incredible dose of nutrients. Start with small amounts and gradually increase as your palate adjusts. Second, you can use liver in ground meat preparations. If you take grass-fed ground beef and mix in some finely minced or ground liver, you can incorporate liver into burgers, meatballs, tacos, and meat sauces where the other flavors help mask the liver taste. I recommend starting with a ratio of about 90% meat to 10% liver, and gradually increasing the liver content as you get more comfortable with it. Third, and this is something that's become really popular, is liver pâté. Now, traditional liver pâté can be rich and intense, but there are ways to prepare it that make it much more palatable. You can make a chicken liver pâté and blend it with cream cheese, butter, herbs, and spices until it's smooth and creamy. You can serve it on crackers with vegetable sticks or spread it on toast. It's actually quite delicious when prepared properly, and you're getting an enormous amount of nutrients in a small serving. Fourth, you can cook liver in ways that reduce the strong flavor. Flash frying thin slices of liver in butter with onions and garlic creates a caramelized exterior that's much more palatable. Some people have never had properly prepared liver because they've only had liver that was overcooked and rubbery. When you cook it quickly, keeping it slightly pink inside if you're dealing with good quality liver, it has a much better texture and taste. And fifth, if you really can't handle the idea of eating liver, there are also high-quality desiccated beef organ supplements available. These are freeze-dried and dehydrated liver and other organ meats that have been powdered and put into capsule form. You're getting the full nutritional benefit without having to actually eat the organ meat. It's not my first choice because you're missing out on some of the benefits of the whole food, but it's certainly better than doing nothing. Here's what I want you to understand about sarcopenia and muscle building more broadly. It's not just about protein quantity. Yes, you need enough protein, and most people aren't getting enough, especially as they age, but it's also about protein quality and nutrient density. When you're eating liver as part of your protein intake, you're getting a package of nutrients that's going to support every aspect of muscle building and maintenance. You're getting the amino acids that build the muscle. You're getting the minerals that support muscle function. You're getting the vitamins that support energy production. You're getting the creatine that supports muscle energy metabolism. You're getting it all in one food. Compare this to bone broth where you're getting gelatin, some amino acids, and minerals that have leached out into the water. There's no question about which one is more nutritionally complete and more effective for building muscle and fighting sarcopenia. Now let me talk about the practical application for someone who's actually dealing with sarcopenia or who wants to prevent it. If you're over 40 and you're concerned about maintaining your muscle mass, here's what I recommend. First, you need to be doing some form of resistance training. This is non-negotiable. You need to be challenging your muscles. This could be weight training, resistance band training, body weight exercises, or other forms of resistance. You need to be doing this at least twice a week, ideally 3 times a week or more. Second, you need to be eating enough protein overall. General recommendations are about 1 gram per pound of your target body weight, though some research suggests up to 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight might be optimal for older adults trying to preserve muscle mass. Third, and this is where I want you to focus based on what we've discussed today, you need to be getting your protein from high-quality sources, and you need to be incorporating nutrient-dense foods like liver into your diet. This doesn't mean you need to eat liver every single day. Even incorporating liver once or twice a week is going to have a significant impact on your nutritional status and your muscle-building capacity. Let me give you a practical example. Let's say you're a 50-year-old woman who wants to maintain muscle mass and strength. You could do resistance training 3 days a week. On your training days, you could make sure you're getting a good source of protein with each meal. Maybe one of those meals includes liver in some form. You could have a liver and onion scramble for breakfast, or a liver pâté on whole grain bread for lunch, or ground beef with liver blended in for dinner. You're going to get more nutrients from those meals than if you'd substituted bone broth or a standard protein source. The reason this works is because nutrient deficiencies impair muscle building. If you don't have enough iron, you can't produce enough hemoglobin to transport oxygen to your muscles. If you don't have enough B vitamins, your energy production is compromised. If you don't have enough minerals like magnesium and phosphorus, your muscles can't contract and relax properly. When you eat liver, you're filling in all those nutritional gaps that many people have, often without even knowing it. And here's something else that's important to understand. As we age, our ability to absorb certain nutrients decreases. This is particularly true for B12, which our bodies extract from animal foods using stomach acid and intrinsic factor. Interestingly, liver is one of the most bioavailable sources of B12, meaning your body can absorb and utilize it efficiently. The same is true for iron. The iron in liver is highly bioavailable compared to plant-based iron sources. So when we're talking about fighting sarcopenia, we're not just talking about getting any protein. We're talking about getting the right protein from sources that provide the maximum nutritional benefit in the most bioavailable form, and that's why liver is such a game changer. Let me also address the environmental and ethical aspects of this because I think it's important. When we talk about eating organ meats, we're actually using more of the animal, which means we're being more efficient and more respectful of the animal that's been raised. Rather than only eating muscle meat and wasting the organs, we're utilizing the whole animal. This is actually more sustainable and more ethical than only eating muscle meat from a larger number of animals. If you're sourcing your liver from grass-fed, pasture-raised animals, you're supporting agricultural practices that are better for the environment and better for animal welfare. Now I want to talk about some of the research that supports this approach. There's been a lot of recent research on sarcopenia and what actually works to prevent and reverse it. The key findings consistently point to the importance of adequate protein intake combined with resistance training. But the studies also show that protein quality matters. Proteins that contain all the essential amino acids in optimal ratios are more effective for muscle building than proteins that are lower in certain essential amino acids. And proteins that come from whole foods that also provide micronutrients are more effective than isolated protein sources or supplements alone. There's also research showing that certain micronutrients are critical for muscle health. Vitamin D is critical for muscle function and bone health. Vitamins are critical for energy production and neurological function. Iron is critical for oxygen transport to muscles. Zinc is critical for protein synthesis. Magnesium is critical for muscle contraction and relaxation. And guess what? Liver is an excellent source of all of these nutrients. I want you to think about this from an evolutionary perspective for a moment. For hundreds of thousands of years, humans ate organ meats. They ate liver, kidneys, heart, brain, and other organs regularly. We evolved eating these foods. Our genetics are adapted to utilize the nutrients in these foods efficiently. It's only in the last 50 to 100 years, with the industrialization of food and the focus on muscle meat, that we've moved away from eating organ meats. And coincidentally, we've seen a rise in nutritional deficiencies and age-related diseases like sarcopenia. I don't think that's a coincidence. Here's what I want to leave you with. The hype around bone broth is not backed up by the science when you really look at it carefully. Bone broth has some benefits, sure, but it's being oversold for what it actually delivers. Meanwhile, liver, which is one of the most nutritionally complete foods available, sits on the sidelines because people are squeamish about it or they've never had it prepared well. If you're over 40, if you're concerned about maintaining muscle mass and strength, if you're worried about sarcopenia, if you want to optimize your muscle building efforts, I'm urging you to give liver a serious try. Start with liver powder mixed into a smoothie if you need to. Try a liver pate if you want something more elegant. Cook liver and onions if you're willing to try it. But find a way to get this nutrient-dense food into your diet, because it's going to make a real difference. The fact is, sarcopenia is preventable and even reversible if you catch it early and you take action. And part of taking action is eating the right foods. Part of it is resistance training. And part of it is being willing to embrace foods that our ancestors knew were special, foods that are nutrient-dense powerhouses, foods that are going to give your body everything it needs to build and maintain muscle. So my challenge to you is this. This week, find one way to incorporate liver into your diet. Just once. Try it. See how you feel. See if you notice any difference in your energy, your strength, your recovery from training. And then, if you find that you like it or that you feel better when you're eating it, make it a regular part of your nutrition plan. Make it a habit. Include it once or twice a week as part of your overall protein intake. And if you found this video helpful, if you're interested in more content about nutrition, muscle building, fighting sarcopenia, and living your healthiest life as you age, please subscribe to this channel, hit the bell notification so you don't miss any of our new content. And let me know in the comments what your experience is with liver or with organ meats in general. Have you eaten liver? Did you enjoy it? Are you willing to try it? I'd love to hear from you and learn about your experiences. The bottom line is this. Don't get caught up in the hype about trendy superfoods. Look at the actual nutrition. Look at the actual science. And make your decisions based on what's actually going to serve your health best. For muscle building and fighting sarcopenia, liver is one of your best options. It's affordable, it's available, it's incredibly nutrient-dense, and it's been supporting human health for thousands of years. This is Dr. Rena, and I'm committed to helping you live your healthiest, strongest life at every age. Keep taking care of yourself, keep training hard, and I'll see you in the next video.